Bob, how you doing?
Hello, hello.
Bob, how are you?
I'm great. How about yourself?
Oh, pretty good, pretty good.
Man, I can't remember from week to week what I did to get in this thing.
Who are you talking to?
Mm.
Oh man, yes. Every time I try to open this up, it sends me somewhere else, and yeah, I'm trying to get back to where I'm trying to get to, and it's like,
Yeah, looking for a
you
little
know,
familiar ground or something.
practice makes perfect.
Hopefully, hopefully. Listen, did you get my email about the structure?
I did, you know, and actually, with Mark Scott, this is probably a conversation to be had with a couple of other folks who are not here.
Okay.
But you, you know the initial thing is that there are only a couple of pieces of this that I really want to directly own and control. The rest of it is just an idea that hopefully other folks will pick up and run with as they see fit. It's the media piece and the market piece that I'm most concerned with, and those are broad headings, and there are a number of entities and processes under each one of those. So what it would take to organize, manage, shape those. Like your idea of the holding corporation. Um, that's something to be discussed. There are some other folks who I think have more of an organizational and structural and management perspective. So, I'd like to get those ideas uh, kind of centralized and flushed out, because where we are now is really, very early in the process and really trying to design a path going forward. One of the things that I want to make certain is that everybody engaged sees how this serves them going forward in the next 5 years or so. Um,
Well, you know what brought it home to me was that you wanted to kick it off on Marcus Garvey's birthday. And if you recall, what brought Marcus Garvey down was the selling shares in the Black Star Line without registering.
hmm,
So it was kind of like that would be too ironic to
yeah,
let
hey,
that happen. So,
uh,
but
lesson,
then
lessons
there
learned. Yeah.
there are some minor things that you probably just don't even think about when you do this kind of stuff. But simply opening a bank account, all of those kind of things, they're going to require company. Well, I mean, you can do it in your name, but if you want to do it in the company name, they're
Mhm,
going to require certain documentation and all that kind of stuff.
absolutely.
So that's why I was thinking maybe the holding company, which would allow the somebody to follow the strict rules as opposed to the whole organization.
Hmm. Okay.
Okay, I lost you. I'm not sure why.
Do you see anybody else?
Up there you are.
I'm here, Marvin.
Andrew.
Hey, what's up, bro?
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good
Mark
morning,
Baker.
Mark.
Hello.
Morning.
So Tadria is trying to join. I see her trying to log in, but I don't see her showing up.
Is Dawn joining us?
Not to my knowledge. She didn't
All right.
respond. Yeah. Mark, are you still hearing?
I'm here.
Oh, okay. No, you muted yourself. Okay.
Yeah, I muted my.
So I see Tadre and Warren trying to join, but they're not coming in for some reason. I don't know. And Andrew, I just see the top of your head, by the way.
Oh, all right.
And tilt your screen down. There you go.
Is that better? All right.
Yeah, yeah. Ooh.
Okay, I'm seeing messages from Tadre and Warren.
She's saying she can hear it and see all of us, but we don't see them. So I guess you're both on phones, cell phones?
Or maybe they haven't turned on their video.
So this is, hello? Yeah. What the 5510. Oh, okay. We can't see you. Have you turned your video on? Same thing, Warren. Both Warren and Tadri.
Hi, Laurie. How you doing? Oh, anything could work? I'm sorry?
Okay, well,
Yeah. I got might need some money because I got some things I got to take care of. Yeah.
we're gonna go ahead, assuming that they can hear us at least. Unfortunately, we can't hear them. Let me wait till Andrew gets back.
Yeah. All right.
Okay, I've muted him so we won't hear the background noise. Mark, if you could begin by just introducing yourself.
Okay. All right. Well, I guess thank you for having me first. And my name is Mark, Mark Scott. I am a solutions architect by trade. A lot of people don't know what that is, but it basically works with organizations to understand what their goals, their missions are, align those with their governance, the business model, the operating models, and try to understand what type of systems they can implement, procedural systems, business process systems, and then also technology systems to support the goals of the organization. So I've been doing that for about the last 10 years for financial services companies in New York City. And prior to that, I was a programmer, a developer, programmed lots of, programs for Associated Press, for other financial services companies. And I guess before that, I was a professional athlete as well. So I was a professional football player for a few years. My wife and I live in New York. We have 2 children. My son, Kamau, is 20. My daughter,
Wow.
Yara, 17. So
Wow.
yeah, we've been in the cultural space. My wife is a permaculture designer. So we've been in the nature space. We've been doing cultural work for many years as well. So yeah, just that's a brief background. Just happy to be able to witness and listen to your process and try to see how I can participate, help, and kind of try to help move things forward.
Okay, so you know, unfortunately, a few folks haven't joined, and a few folks trying to join can't speak. So moving forward, one of the things that has come up with my conversations with Mark is, you know, needing to consider, again, also with Bob Porter, organizational framework moving forward. In this process, you know, we're really at a beginning stage, and I'm really relying on everybody's input to give some guidance, to make certain that as we lay this out, as we move forward, that everybody's personal interests are folded into this process, so that as we move forward, you can see how this benefits you, because it's the extrapolation of this being applied to everybody's individual projects, visions, that will give it, I think, sustainability, and also, you know, just relevance. So, you know, to begin with, I would ask, you know, to start the conversation, you know, what is it that you're projecting for yourself, for your enterprise for the next 5 years? And how do you see a network such as we're discussing, how could that assist, you know, what you're intending for yourself? Ella, let me start with you, because I guess.
Well, for the next 5 years, I want to be primarily an online business, doing most of my business online. As you know, I guess, Mark, you don't know, I'm a hat designer. I've been in business for over 20 years, not long, but not a short period of time either. Done a little bit of everything: wholesaling, manufacturing, retail, and most of my business now comes from traveling, doing events such as Marvin does, everything from big, you know, jazz shows to small in-store events, meet the designer, that sort of thing. So I do have an online presence. I do have a website. It does bring me a little bit of income, but as I move forward within the next 5 years, I don't see myself being out there doing events as I'm doing now. I would want to have 80–90% of my business to come from online business. That's my goal. Actually, you know, within the next 2 years, not 5 years.
African Union Ambassador to the U.S., Dr.
What's your website, Ella?
Y'all hear me?
Lipshats, LIPSHATS.com.
Lipshats.com.
Yes.
All right, great.
So feel free to take a look.
Really, Jay?
And do a little shopping while we're there, right?
Of course, hope so.
Are you with BigCommerce or one of those big platforms?
I'm on Shopify.
Shopify. All right, got you.
Yeah. And I would recommend it to any artist out there.
Yeah.
Very easy to set up, very easy to do business, very integrative. Yeah.
All right.
Quick question, just thanks, Ella, that was great. I'm going to try to just ask a quick question. How many, I guess, visitors do you get, I guess, monthly?
Monthly?
Yeah.
It depends on the season. So, for instance, December, we're looking at maybe only 1,000 visitors would visit the site. Not all of those would convert, maybe convert to like 150 sales.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. January, February, it slows down.
Right. December is a good.
December's a good month. Yeah.
That's a good
and I was promoting a lot. I was promoting heavily in December as well.
Okay, perfect. Thanks.
Yeah.
How do you promote? Facebook, Instagram?
Facebook ads, Instagram, and also direct emailing to my customers.
All right, gotcha.
I have an email list of about 2,500 customers, and I directly email them, especially during the holidays, one to 3 times a week, about sales, about what's going on, new products. That's what I was doing in December.
Of those 100 customers in December, what percentage of them would have been new customers that you had no personal interaction with prior?
5%.
5%, gotcha.
Yeah, 3 to 5%.
Yeah, all right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Ella, the the challenge, I guess, from transitioning from direct sales on the circuit to the e-commerce platform is a threshold issue. Do you have any concept of how long it would take with a concerted effort to get you to a sales volume where you would not have to also do the shows? I mean, the shows are good PR, processes in and of themselves, but
Right.
where do you see
I don't have the information for that. All I can do is look at other companies and compare myself to them and see how they're doing it. I don't know any other way at the moment.
But what's your goal in terms of numbers per month for you to get off the road?
Right.
For me to get off the road, my goal would be 10,000 a month to get off the road.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so the conversation on the floor is, AJ, I don't know if you'd heard this. In terms of trying to design our process going forward, we want to make certain that everybody's individual objectives are factored into the equation. So I'm asking people initially, for the next 5 years, what are your aspirational goals? I mean, whether it's for you personally, ideologically, professionally, for the next 5 years, what are you looking at?
I think for me personally is I want to get off the road. That's my major goal right now. I need an exit strategy,
What's your product?
I'll make a line of clothes and I'm a screen print embroiderer of t-shirts.
All right, good.
So the t-shirt game, generally speaking, is a young person's game.
Uh-huh.
What's hip with the youngsters, is something that a young person usually would know. I've been fortunate in that I've been able to kind of maintain for 30 years by integrating young people into my operation and listening to them.
All right.
And now people make, a very handsome living off of the road and online.
All right.
And because my efforts have always been on the road and stores, my web presence is not nearly what I want it to be. And so I'm trying to reimagine it, and I'm trying to.
And what's the name of your business, bro? And give your name and the name of the business again.
My name is Aaron Johnson.
Okay, Aaron. Nice to meet you.
The name of the business is Unities Incorporated. We have a couple of different websites because we do a couple of different things. And I'm learning some things that I'd like to share also.
What's the website? Which one would you
And so
recommend?
the one for all the clothing is shop, SHOP, Unities, UNITEES.com.
Unity,
And what's your-
UNITES?
2 E's, UNITEES.com.
Oh, all right.
.com.
Gotcha.
Right.
AJ also has a retail operation in Philadelphia.
Right.
And you wholesale as well, AJ?
Yeah, we wholesale as well. Yes.
All right, good.
All right. So,
Yeah,
so
I wholesale as well.
yeah. So my main website is for custom screen print and embroidery, and that is unities.com, UNITEES.com. Okay. And then something that I just have learned is guiding me with these other websites, and that is I've advertised a lot on search engines.
Mhm.
So as opposed to doing social media advertising, web ads on Instagram and Facebook, I have begun doing search engine ads. I don't know if most people know this, but it used to be where Google, for instance, was like a reservoir for information. And if you want to know how old Mike Tyson is, you just say, Google, how old is Mike Tyson? And it would give you an answer. But now it's pretty much ad driven.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been a basis for the ads. Like you store the information and it's the same thing when I listen to you guys as you're talking. The thing you want to do is to be able to store the content that all of your customers want first. And that's what Google does, right? They store, when you want to find out how old Mike Tyson is, they've indexed all of the pages on the web that might have Mike Tyson's age on it. And they've got that stored. So when you come and search, all they've done is they've partnered their partners' information, which are the ads, into the search results, and they've mapped it based on keywords. What we call hashtags in today's world, but really those hashtags generated as the ability to link the advertising and the content together. So yeah, you're right on. I mean, that in and of itself is the goal, is to understand what everyone in the organization has in terms of their hashtags, and store your content, and then attribute the things that you sell when people interact online, which is what social media is, right? That's why you're having better results on a search engine versus social media, because look at all the years that Google has ahead of social media. People's
my video's not working anyway, and I have my headphones on there. So.
But the other point I want to make is that I created some websites whose URL is close to the product I sell.
I can't hear you, Aaron, so much. There's a lot of background noise now.
Yeah,
okay,
I think
can you hear me now?
the brother that walked away from the camera, I think he's
That's
Yeah.
Tadre and Tadre were speaking also, Andrew. So
What kind?
so
Just
should I mute them or?
out of curiosity.
yeah, you can.
Okay, I've muted Andrew.
Okay. So you said you created some websites?
Yeah, okay, so let me give you the rundown. Okay, so there's so many people, there's more people who have not heard of the name Unities than have, right? There's more people that have heard of, less people that heard of Lips Hats than haven't. You understand? There's way more people that don't know you, right?
Right.
But there's way more people that want a hat like what you make. And so if they're looking for it, they're not going to look under Lips Hats.
No.
They're never going to do it because they don't know Lips Hats.
Right.
So I created URLs. For instance, I sell Howard University apparel. I have a line of Howard gear with a license to sell it, right? And so I made a website called howardgear.com.
Yeah.
And when I did that, I get so much more traffic on that site because it's related to what I sell. So if somebody is Googling, where can they get Howard gear? Without me paying for it, my listing is top 5 without me paying for it. Because my URL is that thing.
Right. So let me ask you a question, just in terms of, Aaron, in terms of the goals. What are your goals for organizational goals for the companies? They can include numbers. Like what are your goals for the next 3 to 5?
Yeah. So for me, I'm looking to do $10,000 a month on our web platforms. Each one. I'm looking to expand to more retail spaces. We tried Philadelphia. We got other cities in mind, and these retail platforms are not ours alone. We are partnering with folks like who are on this video conference right now to create spaces.
And how many retail partners do you currently have?
In our Philadelphia location, is 3 of us, 3 businesses.
Okay. What's the scope of those businesses? What do they do?
Okay, so one of the other businesses is a t-shirt guy also, and he makes a line of Afrocentric statement t-shirts and other apparel. And my third partner is a hair and skin product manufacturer who makes a line of hair and skin products. Vegan hair and skin products, which is kind of important.
Yeah. Okay, excellent.
So the idea going through it was to create pretty much what we're doing here, you know, to create a way for us to have an outlet for our works. A lot of times we can't afford to do it alone. So if we partner up and pair up in places that it makes sense, then I think that's the way forward. Again, I'm 54. I've been on the road since I've been doing this merchandise since I was 17. So for me, it's an exit strategy from the road. And then also I want to mention that all this time that we've been going out here and selling our wares, Ella and Marvin and everybody that's listening, as it relates to the web, we weren't selling our wares. We were test marketing.
Yes.
And we were identifying what works in different cities. And we were working on our sales pitches, and we were creating our scripts. We weren't vending, as it were.
Well, that's what, right. So that's what we should be doing. Correct.
I mean, if we just take it as, you know, a transferable way, because at first when I started trying to get involved with the web, it's like, I have no clue. Like, I didn't know what hashtagging was. I didn't know what all of these things are, but we already do those things.
Correct. When
we're vending, we just don't identify them as such. So it's like, okay, now you got to sit and translate all of those things that we do every day.
Right.
Yes, this is Aaron. Somebody just said it, this is Aaron. Yeah, all the things that we do every day and translate it into the web language so that we could apply it.
Right. And that's exactly, that's a great point, right? Just for everyone, just in terms of what my job and how I try to help organizations is that statement that Aaron just said, is to take what you do naturally as culture and translate that into system, process, and also like the rules that run the organization and how it ends up in a system, right? So that's the perfect thing. Like when we ask, or when the ask is what your goals are for 3 to 5 years, think about it exactly like that. Like think about the culture that you've created in whatever spaces you're in currently, whether it's a physical space, a virtual space, you have a retail outlet, you have an online outlet. Like what type of growth do you want at each of those levels in terms of your organization, in terms of the business that you're trying to do, like how much business down each line of business, and then what systems, in your vernacular, Aaron, what hashtags have you attributed to that process so far, right? So that's like the goal.
That leads me to another point that is kind of tough, because I'm on a similar conference call with a brother in Atlanta that has a shoe manufacturing company. He makes sneakers.
Yeah.
And his business is pretty like 99% online. And so I'm learning from him because he wants to learn about festivals and I want to know about online. Okay. So one of the things that we have done is one of our hashtags is Buy Black, right?
Right.
But what I'm coming to find out from him is that the social media organizations, Facebook being the main one,
Right.
They will limit your impact if you use that. They
Right.
will, as a matter of fact, they'll put a label on you. So even though that we're not meaning anything in a racial manner, we're not being anti anybody. We're just saying, you know, support a Black-owned business as something
Right.
that's like a basic tenet, you know. But they're looking at it as that's exclusive
Well,
based on race.
let me say this to you, right? Because you're speaking directly to how oppression is codified in the algorithm.
Mhm.
Okay, this is what I want to like. This is my part of the framework that we're trying to develop here, is to understand exactly what. There's a glossary. Let's just start with this. There's a glossary of terms that we all use to define what we do, right? If I give you an example, the set of documents that Brother Marvin has put together, right? If I was to write a program and go through that document and search for all the words, the unique words, how often certain words are used in those documents, I would have a set of terms and glossaries that we would all agree on, that that's how we communicate the strategy that has brought us together on this call, right? Now, if I take those words and I write a program and says every time someone searches for these words, I can negate the value. I can put some type of weight on those values to drag them down and let the other values rise to the top. I have the ability to do that very easily, right? I have the ability to do that. And that value currently is under the hood in the current social platforms. I don't know if you guys know or use TikTok as yet.
No.
Anybody?
I'm aware of it.
Okay,
I'm aware of it, but I'm not.
so forget all this. You hear the ambiguity that just happened in the conversation?
Mhm.
That's real. That's a cultural reality, what just happened right here. And you need to, the next time I ask that question, everybody needs to have a real life, visceral response to what I just said. Like, do you have TikTok? Yeah, I had this experience. Okay, because in that platform, Aaron, that platform takes the statement that you just said, and they actually list out the algorithm and the views that each hashtag has. So if you say buy Black, I can actually go on TikTok right now, search for buy Black, and it will tell me the construct of hashtags that are working around buy Black.
Wow.
Right?
Wow.
It'll cluster around it. It'll tell me there are 300 million people currently on this platform viewing videos around buy Black.
Wow.
Wow.
So I'm gonna back up off of this, right? Because all I want to give you is the point that the words, the hashtags, the words, the terms, the glossary, the things, the oppression of the constriction of the growth that you're looking to have is codified. It's codified. Okay, so for you to actually say in this call, what do I want in 1 year? What do I want in 3 years? What do I want in 5 years? What do I want in 10 years? What do I want in you have to unlock the codes, right? So you have to build a context, which is the words, right? The context is the glossary around a set of words and terms. And this is, I'm only speaking to the marketing part, right? So what we're gonna talk about different things. This is just towards marketing. We're gonna have a collective set of terms, which you've already started. The brother that you're talking to already started. He already has a set of terms. We should all be collecting sets of terms, right? Because what you want to do is you don't want to everybody pick buy Black. No, because you already see that the keys and the shackles of the algorithm are already intentionally locked around buy Black.
Mhm.
But Buy Black has a cluster
Mm.
of terms
Mhm.
around it that we're all using, right? If I go, like I said to someone yesterday, here's an example. I said to someone yesterday, I said COVID-19, right?
Mhm.
And I had just got off a call with work, and they were like, "You just got off with some work people, didn't you?" And I said, "Yeah, how you know?" He said, "Man, around here we say Rona." And I said, "Of course we do."
Mhm.
But you understand, like that cultural context of Rona versus COVID, it brings like it brings feeling, it brings culture, like and I can code the value around those terms. So I'm just gonna leave it there to say, like, that's the goal, right? Take what you're learning in his space or in the spaces that we currently are, bring those words together, and that's part of this process, is to hear what you guys are trying to do, but understand the value of the pieces that I'm hearing so far. Like, that's a really valuable piece to understand that, yes, we see the limitations of the current search process and the way to advertise, but here there are now newer platforms that are exposing a little bit more of the underlying piece to give you the ability to like win, right? To get that growth that you're looking for. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, let me move on.
That was great.
Andrew, while I have you here, again, the same question. In the next, 5 years or so, personally, ideologically, business-wise, what are some of your goals and aspirations? You know.
Yeah, I would say over the next 5 years, my goal is to transfer some of the entrepreneurial skills I've developed over the last 45 years to the motherland. Traditionally, handcraft is the basis of industry. And Africa in general, but I'm speaking of Ghana in particular, have millions of craftspeople who have not had the exposure that we would have had. And so what I'm working on is really establishing numerous small-scale industries and growing them in a variety of platforms. As I mentioned during the introduction, if I haven't been in at least 50 businesses over the last 10, 20 years, I haven't been in one. And so, for instance, right now in Kumasi, we're producing sandals. We've set up to produce apparel in Accra. And the goal is to bring that Western designer concept to products with a distinct African visual orientation. And so my goal over the next 5 years is to really spend more time in Ghana, developing it, and encouraging others to look to Ghana. Some of the benefits that I immediately perceive there for small entrepreneurs is that really the purchasing power of your dollar in Ghana is like 20-fold. For example, I'm able to hire a college graduate in Ghana for 700 cedis per month. 700 CDs is the equivalent of $120 per month for a college graduate. And the people are energetic, they're enthusiastic, they're happy to work. And that really provides us with a launch pad from which we can develop opportunities, not just for ourselves, but also for those individuals who can grow with you economically at the same time that you're growing your business. Another example, the cost of space in Ghana, it's unbelievable. Nice shop in a modern building would cost you the equivalent, I'm talking about like say 600 square feet, would cost you the equivalent of $150 US per month. And so those, you know, they provide the opportunities for us, in my view, not to mention the price of land and those other things or building costs, but they provide for us, in my view, the opportunities that existed for the Rockefellers and the Carnegies at the turn of the 20th century. And they're not going to always be there. As a matter of fact, my view is that by 2050, the opportunities will still be there, but you will not be able to get in at these cost up with at this level of cost beyond 2050. Because in the case of Ghana, I think it's one of the fastest growing economies in the world.
Yeah, agreed.
And,
You mean 2025?
I'm sorry?
You mean 2025? 2015 passed.
2050. By the year 2050, yeah.
Oh,
I'm 66 years old, so you know,
I got you.
I'm thinking about, you know, laying a foundation for my kids.
Right.
And I mentioned to Marvin when we were in Ghana the last time that I took my son last August to Shanghai, and I showed him those skyscrapers there. And I told him that those were built by Chinese in the diaspora, and the same opportunity exists for Africans in diaspora in the motherland. And, you know, we just need to get there. And, you know, like you talk about your t-shirts, bro, you could set up a small t-shirt production entity in Ghana with 3-4 diligent workers. You could set up with 10 diligent workers and have a payroll of about $1,000 a month. So it's just a matter of bringing your expertise and your insight and your knowledge. Yeah.
Okay, so I have a really, really good friend. We were partners in America, and he lives in Ghana.
All right.
And he's doing farming there.
All right.
And you know, my question has always been, could we sell what we're producing domestically so as to avoid that whole export piece?
Yeah. All right. When I first started looking at setting up production in Ghana, export. My view was production for export, and that remains a part of my view. But I'm no longer looking exclusively at production for export. I had looked for production of export because I have stores in the mall here in Nassau, Bahamas, where I can get that margin. A pair of sandals that I can produce in Ghana, a pair of good leather sandals that I can produce in Ghana at a cost of about $7 all in. I could get $39 to $59 for it here in the Bahamas. To sell that same sandals in Accra, I'd have to sell it for about $18, $20, which is not bad. So now I'm looking at the dual approach where I sell it I have it available for sale in my showroom in Ghana, but I'm also exporting it outside to the West, where I can get the type of margins that would give me the level of growth that I need
So,
to
and
really ramp up everything that I want to get done in the motherland.
yeah. So
Okay.
from a revenue perspective, because you're talking about margins that you're looking for. So what's the basis of monthly revenue that either is today as is, or that you're looking to get in 3 to 5?
Right now, my revenue is like mid 7 figures. And in 5 years, I figure I can do in Ghana in
And that's
3
monthly,
years.
correct?
I'm sorry?
That's monthly, correct?
No, 7 figures would be annually.
No,
But
so, yeah. Okay.
monthly, say around 300, around 300K. But I figure with production infrastructure, and of course that was pre-COVID-19. I don't know what it's going to be, because we're on lockdown and COVID is a game changer. But my expectation would be with things going back to normal, production in place in the motherland, apparel and a variety of other products.
Yeah.
Where I'm able to produce the products at that level of quality, where I'm able to substitute it for replace my current suppliers with these products. I don't see any reason why in about 3 years, if we can't get to 700K per month, it's time to close up shop.
Right. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Tadre, can you hear us? Warren, can you hear us?
I can hear you guys. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
We can't see you.
We can't see you. So
Okay, great.
so Tadre, if you
I'm a
would
ghost.
take a minute or two to introduce yourself. Sorry we can't see you. And then, respond to the question of the next, 3 to 5 years. What is your projection in terms of, where you see yourself going or what you'd like to accomplish in that time frame? But, first give us a little bit of background about who you are.
Okay, well, first I'd like to apologize if the internet is lagging. I am in Uganda. I live on the top of a hill, and we vacillate between 3G and 4G, and I'm surrounded by trees. But so I have a background in international human rights law, and some of you might know me from Wild Women Wear Red. I had a women's shoe boutique located on U Street between 15th and 16th.
Yes.
And I believe we ordered our t-shirts from Unity.
Yeah, you did.
I think so.
Yes. I know you very well. Thank you very much.
And Lips.
Yes, I know you too.
Yes, I remember you.
Yes.
And so personally, I would like to purchase property here in Uganda near Lake Victoria within the next couple of years. And from a business perspective, I would like to have Off the Beaten Path, which is a web series about international travel and fashion. I would like to have that global and making a profit. Thus far, I've been funding it myself. And we're currently on Kweli TV. And then I also launched a women's fashion, well, not just women, but a fashion, lifestyle, and empowerment retreat where I'd be bringing predominantly Americans, African Americans to Uganda just to see the beauty and to support local businesses, and just to see what's happening here. And that was going to happen in September and December. And it was going to coincide with Kampala Fashion Week and also the Abrians Fashion and Style Awards, which is the biggest fashion style awards in East Africa. But due to the COVID, due to Auntie Rona, we just don't know. But eventually I would like to bring people here just to connect with the motherland and connect with the creatives here and just to see the beauty.
So Tadri, you've been through, from my following, from Zanzibar to Tanzania, now you're in Uganda. Why have you settled in Uganda of all the East African zones you've been to?
Well, originally I had gone to Zanzibar for my birthday. I believe it was 2017, November, and fell in love with it. And like most people that travel, like, how can I live here was the question. How can I come back? And I got laid off from my job in the following Thanksgiving. And so I took my unemployment check, moved to Zanzibar because it's beautiful and it's hot and it's humid and there's the ocean. But one of the things that people don't speak of often is, it's a Muslim country. And so I did feel restricted in my dress, in my behavior, just in who I could be. And they also have waste management issues. During the high season, you don't see it because, the resorts clean up the beaches, but during the low season, it's just a mess. But when I had come to Uganda for a break from Zanzibar because I wanted to speak English and I wanted to wear regular clothes. And I came here and I met my cinematographer. And we decided to live in the same country so that we could be more productive in producing Off the Beaten Path. So we have 2 seasons that we produced here. One of the reasons why I've stayed here specifically is because it's English speaking. And the populace is relatively educated. And so it's been relatively easy for me to land opportunities. They're literally just handed to me because people see me as one of their own. I thought about Nairobi. One of my homeboys has been trying to get me to move to Nairobi, but Nairobi is very expensive and it's also sprawling. So I lived in DC for 13 years and I realized, having moved back to Los Angeles before moving to East Africa, I realized I really do like small to mid-sized cities. And that's what Kampala is.
Okay, cool. Okay.
And then what are your goals?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, what are your goals in terms of monthly and just revenue wise?
My monthly goals? Okay, well, I want to make a profit. That's a monthly goal. Currently, I'm a freelance writer. And, I currently make about $1,000 a month doing that. And my goal has been to make, to triple that, because obviously you can live in Uganda very cheaply. So I've been figuring it out as I go. Again, like I said, the retreat, I was going to hire a digital marketing expert so that I could reach my demographic, but I've put that project on hold. We have another 21 days of quarantine here. And then with Off the Beaten Path, I haven't even thought about how much I would like to make. I just want it to be wildly successful. And I want somebody else to pay for it.
So I don't know if how many people would have Quayle TV. It's like one of the few Black streaming services available. Excellent, excellent programming. So,
How would I find you on Quayle TV?
huh?
How would I
Off the
find
Beaten Path is the name of the series.
Off the beaten path? All right.
Yes.
So, like I say, Quayle is like a Netflix construct that
For
you would have
Black
to download,
folks.
platform that you would download on your, what's the device? Is a Fire Stick or
Any
the
mobile
Roku
device.
or any streaming device. But a lot of African diasporan relevant programming. Their theme is culture curated. So it's not a lot of Bollywood or Nollywood. A lot of very very creative and introspective kinds of programming. And it's worth the support. Like I say, when I navigate through the streaming universe, there are thousands platforms. This is the only one that I found that's near us, much less about us. It's like,
And they're also, they also just launched a deal with Comcast and another US-based cable provider. So more people will be able to access it and know about it. And Off the Beaten Path does have quite a lot of views, actually. It's just that the pay rate per view is really low.
What's your total viewership, or what those metrics are right now?
Let me look that up, and then I will add it to the chat.
Sure, perfect.
Okay.
I missed the first part of this introduction. Why are we collecting this information?
Mark, if you want to summarize quickly here.
So did you miss my introduction? Just so I'm Mark.
I did.
Yeah, sorry. So Mark Scott, that's my name. I guess if I was to just put it in terms of like helping organizations, so I'm a solutions architect, right? So I try to architect systems, and when I say systems, meaning like networks, and architected systems in financial services. My current clients are like Comcast is a client of mine, right? So I'm helping Comcast right now with what's called their, I don't even know. I won't tell you what it's called, but I'm under NDA for that one. But just in terms of the systems that piece all of the content together and how they can attribute their revenue model to all the lines of businesses that they have, right? So to make sure that the goals that an organization has for all of the products that it's selling, all of the content that it has, all of the marketing that it does, to feed it through a system, whether it's, it has e-commerce, whether it sells content itself, whether it's media, just whatever those lines of businesses are, that you can start to organize from the bottom up, right? Because you're working towards a plan that you've actually strategized on the topmost level, with business rules, the policies that run it. So one of those things in terms of putting companies with when I came on, I heard there was a conversation going on around like holding companies, right? So a holding company would be like a great model to use. To give you an example is to say all of you guys would be individual subsidiaries underneath an umbrella. The umbrella corporation, it would have its own operating agreements. All the subsidiaries would adhere to those, but all of the plans, all of the growth, all of the numbers that it takes to deliver those goals, we have to start by like doing an assessment. And so what I do is I get on calls with businesses like this to assess where their current state is, where they'd like to go in 3, 5, 10, 2040 even, right? Andrew said 2050. 2050 is a viable number to like grow our processes. So that's kind of what I do, is go find out what the business's strategies are, what the governance policies that they put in place are, how the pieces are put together to make sure that they actually get where they're going, and then how do we do like the analysis to say, okay, are we meeting those goals or not? So that's what I do for companies, and so that's why I'm listening, and that's why I'm asking those types of questions.
So what we were
Okay,
doing,
thank you.
Cadre, is, we're at the early stages of designing a network that connects us globally and facilitates some of the processes that we already have going on. The idea being that, we've all already tested products, services, concepts. We see that they're viable, but they need to be scaled up to generate the revenues that we're going to need to sustain ourselves or to meet our goals. The concept is that, this network built out could facilitate that just by integrating our ideas, our concepts, our collectivity, our market. And so, we've asked Mark to listen in to us, each of us, describing, what are some of our individual goals and objectives, and then he would digest that and kind of give us a blueprint, going forward. So that's kind of the framework that you may have missed. That's all.
Okay, thank you for the update.
Oh, okay. Bob Porter.
Okay. Now, my answer is going to be full of ambiguity, so I'm just going to forewarn you. But I am what could best be described as a serial entrepreneur. Over my history, I've developed all kind of companies. I was a lawyer by education, by training, and as my growth, I got into corporate development. And I'm from Chicago, and people here have all kind of needs to how to set up a company just so they comply with the basic regulations, how they kind of protect themselves, and how they can kind of interact with the larger world. As part of that, I developed my own companies. They've been successful and they've been losers. They've been all over the place. But my latest, and I'm retired now. I'm 68, so I've been around a while, and so I'm semi-retired. And one of the things that I had last been working on, it started with an interest in what I had been involved in debit cards. And that was one of the failures, and it was a spectacular failure, but it was a great ride. Were
you certified like as a money service business? Or just go ahead.
We actually had a license where we were supplying actual debit cards. We were the owner, and we went through NICE, NYCE, and all those types of things.
Yep.
So once that failed, and as a outgrowth of that, that was shortly before Bitcoin became a great hit. So in looking at Bitcoin, I said, oh, well, that's a fantastic process. It kind of frees the Black community from the central bank and all those kind of things. But Bitcoin is digital currency.
What type of token entity did you create? I'm a Bitcoin. I'm a tech, I'm a blockchain architect as well. So I know.
Okay.
Yeah. So I know it very well. So just speak to me as deep as you can and as wide. Like I get it. So
the problem was that I did not actually form the actual token. It dawned on me that there needed to be some sort of underlying basis for people to rely on my service. In other words, what do they have in terms of in the back up what I say that I can deliver on payment on any particular transaction? So naturally, the thing that came to mind was gold. If I have storage $1 million worth of gold, and I've got transactions that total $500,000 in a day, then
Right.
you know, my transactions or my ability to pay on those transactions is good. So starting out as a sole proprietor, that's a
Yeah.
lot of work to do. So I said, well, let me just narrow this down to into edible bites. And I started out with the concept of just gold. I formed a company. It's Refined 79 Corporation. It deals with, primarily an online presence, and it is at the stage where it's almost ready to go to market. The way it
Okay.
will work is primarily the gold will be sold as bars, just if you like Pop Suisse, if you like SMI, whatever you like, we would
Yeah.
supply that particular bar, and we would sell it in primarily small sizes, 2.5, 5 grams, something.
Where's the origination? Where's the origination as opposed to where the refinery is?
Now that is the one of the primary reasons for my being here. The fact that Ghana, I understand, is now opening the refinery. Nigeria is opening the refinery, and that is not only a marketing coup for what I'm trying to do. It is also a satisfying goal for me to reach. So
Right.
what I am currently looking at is basically selling the existing, what you can find in any store, whether it's gold at SMI. I think their refinery is in not Utah, but might be Utah. They've got other companies that have a refinery in Texas, that type of thing. That and they have it, and Pop Suisse, of course, is in Switzerland. So
Mhm.
they are not unique to me. They have no marketing value to me. It's just that they are 99.9% pure gold, 24 karat. So they've
Right.
got a reputation, and then people will buy it just because of who they are. The thing is that for Black folks, there are not a lot of people who are focused on that entire industry.
Right.
They might buy something for jewelry, which is fine. You know, that's what they do in India. They can amass a great deal of gold just in terms of dowries and what they wear around their neck and arms and ankles. So it's not a bad thing. It's just that it is not has no longevity. So, for instance, if you think of if the value of gold is really in how it is used, if you can amass a great deal of gold, there's nobody I know or no company in the Black community which is trying to do that. There is no Fort Knox where there's somebody who can say, well, I've amassed $3 million worth of gold, which I can use as a something to guarantee somebody else's transaction. There's
Yeah.
nothing like that going on, so it's got to
So
be
there
pretty.
are a couple. Just to put it out there,
Let me at 'em.
are some references that you could find. But what I'm hearing is this is a great model for the asset basis, right? And in any evolved financial system that we're trying to like the one we're trying to create, like you've got to have that resource that you can attribute, like you were saying, like value to, right? Whether you're leveraging it against Bitcoin inside of the rails of the Bitcoin economy, or you're able to transfer it over into the fiat world that the rest of manufacturers, producers, and retail folks work in. So that's great. Is there a number that you're attributing right now to like your growth in the Bitcoin space, or are you more getting revenue in other spaces other than just the Bitcoin?
I am looking to stop going in my pocket to pay for everything.
Have you found a liquidity partner on the Bitcoin side?
Could you repeat that, please?
Have you found a liquidity partner? Meaning, so I did the same thing, right? I've done Bitcoin for like the last 4 years, but sooner or later, because the reason folks choose Bitcoin is to motivate Black and brown people to use different rails than the financial system that we're currently running on with the Federal Reserve Bank and all the other, the cadre of people that's connected to them. That usually the issue is, yeah, I can put my money into Bitcoin, but when I need it, how do I get it out, right? So then you need liquidity partners who are either doing what you started out to say, which is, okay, I've got a debit card and I'm able to debit an account, but in the background, some partner has to be able to take that that transaction and take it and actually go to an exchange and exchange the value of the token for dollars at some point, right? You can get authorized to swipe your card, but someone's got to get paid and the transaction needs to happen. So I'm asking, did you get to a point where you were able to actually connect your coins to the real, like ACH framework of ATM cards?
Not with the Bitcoin part of it. The
Okay.
debit cards, it was actually investors had financed it to the point that we were able to carry through for a number of months based on what they had paid. So that when they did the sweeps and all those types of things, we were able to pay for the daily transactions. But when that goes wrong, because the fees and that type of thing, it can be horrible. But with the current venture, things have taken a turn. And that is focused pretty much on what is available through the precious metals. And let me just explain what I mean by that. There is an entire, if you look at precious metals differently from just a bar, an ingot, or something you can wear around your neck, it is actually something, and I'm an older guy, but back when I was a kid, there was a thing called a Series E savings bonds that you would buy for $17 or $15, and after a number of years, you could redeem it for $25. They're not available to the public now, but there is a way to use precious metals to achieve the same thing. Typically, gold is going to grow at about 10% a year. Since we've got our current occupants of the White House, the price of an ounce of gold went from about $1,000 a year ago to about $1,800 now. Now, that type of growth is unusual, may never repeat itself again, and I'm a little bit late on that whole train. But for instance, if it's something that you were to buy if you were to buy an ounce of gold for a child now, and it's growing at 10% a year, and you buy for them and they're 5 years old, and they hold it until they're 17 or whatever the case may be, no telling what it could be worth at the point that they're going to redeem it. So putting that together is more than a notion, because of vaulting services and all those types of things, and succession planning for my company, because there need to be somebody else around for them to cash in their gold from. That is something which could begin to get the entire diaspora on track to be involved in it. It takes them away from the central bank, and not only that, where did all of this originate but Africa? And where is it the most plentiful source that you can find but Africa? So, we supplied all of the European and the United States, Fort Knox and all those places. So they've got plenty of our gold, but they'll tell us that the dollar is the place to park your money, and it's got its benefits, not trying to knock it, but they'll poo-poo anything to do with African gold. So that was a cultural issue, but in the sidetrack, and I apologize. But there's also the problem of dealing in small amounts of gold. Most people, if they go out and they buy a gram of gold, you can barely hold it in your hand without losing it. It's so small. So if that's all you can afford, though, that is a start. How do you then? I've tried to develop a program, I think, which will allow people to buy at these small amounts, turn it around, kind of compile it, amass it, and turn it into something which you're proud to display, proud to tell your banker you have. Well, I've got uh, 10 ounces of gold, and I'd like to use that to guarantee my purchase of this apartment building or whatever the case may
Right.
be.
Right.
So that program and those types of programs, I think, are where my focus is now. And again, this is a very small operation where everybody's wearing 4 and 5 different hats. And again, we're paying for it out of our pockets at this point. And
Is there any revenue so far?
no, in fact, I'm about to try and test run the e-commerce store so that we can
Okay.
actually start doing sales.
And what platform are you using for e-commerce?
It would just be a GoDaddy store until we had the purpose. The plan is to internally or in-house set up all of these things, to have a working model to then turn around and say, you are an expert IT designer, security analyst. Take what we've done here, put it into a boutique form that everybody would be proud to shop at, and let's roll with it. But we got to know what works, what doesn't work, what's
Right.
going to.
Right. And that's a I guess a function of like scale, once you're able to understand what it is you want to out, right? Like, so I'm hearing that, like, so what types of revenues would you be looking for that venture to be whole?
Obviously, we've got big dreams of large amounts of dollars, but again, I could not tell you in other words, if I was talking to an investor and they
Right.
would
If you
say,
were to
well,
forecast, right? So sooner or later, someone's going to ask you, like, okay, if it was an investor and they were putting in X number of dollars, you'd have to come up with some kind of valuation, and that valuation would be based on some kind of projection. So, how would you project that from a monthly, perspective?
again, at this point, and people, of course, have asked that, and my
Yeah.
response is to simply say that we can project a markup of 15-20% type of would be the
Okay.
answer. The problem with that answer is if you were to go online today to any of the major suppliers, they would tell you that they cannot tell you when they will be able to deliver the product because the demand is just so high. There's going to be there's going to be a premium that everybody's going to pay. So 15%, 20% is a moderate projection. The goal here, though, again, I'll repeat, I'm 68 years old. I was not looking to retire to work harder than I did when I was fully employed. So what's going to happen is that we try and put it at a pace where nobody is stressed out. It is all a labor of love. And if we fail to convince any Black folks this month to buy some gold, or no Caucasians come along and buy our product, we're not going to be hurting. We're not going to
Right.
follow the debit card fiasco where we've got to ride full speed ahead just to cover those monthly expenses type of situation.
And where are you currently marketing those? Or
Again, we've been operating keeping it under wraps, keeping it secret, so that people will not be aware of what we're doing to take our concepts. Now, to add to the ambiguities, that is my corporate purpose for being here. There's also my philosophical goal. And one of the things I had been doing as part of social media was trying to cajole people to get involved in Buy Black, just to let people know what's out there, to say, well, look, here's something that doesn't cost you anymore. You buy this kind of stuff every day, so why don't you buy the Black version of it? In doing that, one of the things that I ran across was, or one of the things I tried to do was to just keep listing when Black businesses came online, just to say, well, here's somebody doing this. You may not be aware of it, but if you live in New York, there are these kind of businesses, so on and so on. Now, that's a lot of work, trying to help somebody else promote their business. You'd
Right.
think that they would say, well, Bob, here's my business. Talk about me, you know, those types of things. Well, when you've got to hunt them down and you've got to promote them, it becomes more of a task than I was willing to undertake. Plus, there's so many of them. So my thought was to be a part of a situation where they at least had the opportunity to bring the project to us to say, well, if this is a platform which is promoting Black businesses and Black creativity, here I am. Let me tell you about what I've got going on over here. So instead of one person trying to say, well, I'm doing this, you now got an internet presence of a rather large or robust organization to say, well, here, let people know about what you're doing over here through us. So that is the philosophical goal that I'm trying, or the object that I'm trying to reach. So I hope you got all that, but that was just the second part of this
That's
whole
fine.
thing. So, and again, I didn't answer your question about getting back to the Bitcoin or the digital currency because I've seen things like Akon was trying to set up.
Right.
So, you know,
And I know that the depth and breadth of Bitcoin conversation could take over the whole this whole conversation. So just wanted to keep it at the high level.
I'm happy to have somebody to talk about with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
So
my
this,
question on
I'm sorry, Andrew, you're saying?
sorry, my question on the gold situation. Do you have physical possession of the
The answer to your question is that is one of the goals that we have. In other words, the way that we would be able to guarantee other transactions is by having physical possession, by doing vaulting of others' gold as well as what we can amass over the years. We would then, by having that physical possession, that is what would allow us to achieve a lot more than just making a 15, 20% markup. The initial objective is to not take physical possession of individual sales. For instance, if you want to buy an ounce of gold, it's it's advantageous for us to vault it for you because we can amass it, never reaching a Fort Knox scale, but just say just holding $3-4 million worth of gold or platinum or whatever, and then say, well, we can use that 3-4 million to guarantee 30 million in transactions, something along those lines. But for the terms of just operating, a clean sale is easiest for us. We don't have any additional costs. We don't have any additional headaches. You want an ounce of gold? Thank you. We'll take your money, provide you the finest of gold, and we all move on. But again, that's a Caucasian version of business, which we can't afford to do at this point in our development, I don't think.
So just, to kind of summarize, just in this conversation, we see that there's, multiple threads of interest, perspective, that begin to, to dovetail. The concept that, I'm attempting to advance is that, we need a new system to operate within. And that's a very total perspective, but it has to begin somewhere. There's a direct link between what we as designers and retailers do to currency, valuation, and wealth accumulation down the road that begins to make an alternative system possible. Just to say, just in the past few months, just working with Andrew in Nassau, because of his revenue stream he has the ability to say yes to a number of projects that, you know, because I don't have that revenue stream, are just ideas to me.
Mhm.
Well, if you multiply or amplify our asset base to a logical conclusion, you know, whether it's 2015 or 5-10 years from now, you know, when Kadre says she's trying to buy some land in Uganda, that's just a yes. That's just somebody saying yes. Somebody needs to finance production to scale up or ramp up or to hire folks. That's just somebody saying yes if the resources are already there and available. Now, the challenge, you know, I've also identified is that 1,000 individual enterprises will always be just 1,000 individual enterprises. And unless and until we find ways to connect not just our intellectual capacities, but our financial resources, unless we find some way to dovetail that into a platform or a system that we can all access for our next levels, we're going to wind up being, you know, 1,000 enterprises, individual enterprises, just, you know, a couple of steps ahead of where we are now. You know, the distance from here to $10,000 a month really isn't that far. But if you're trying to do that by yourself, you know, it's a long way to reach. My perspective is that one of the things that this platform or our project can do is dramatically expand our universe of market, audience, colleagues, friends, community. And as Mark was saying, you know, the vocabulary, you know, that we attach to this process going forward, how we're able to distill language that, you know, surrounds our individual and collective projects is going to be very key. So, you know, I mean, asking everybody to be processing that, you know, community, self-determination, self-reliance, family. These are some words, you know, that are buried in there that are not perhaps as objectionable, but, you know, certainly begin to connect people to our overall mission. I'm very clear about Africa because I see that that's the only way that I can see right now of getting off the plantation. If it's not that, then it's just another room or another house on the plantation. And I'm not really into that. You know, I'm really about us creating something that we can direct towards solving the problems of our people and our communities without having to rely on other folks who don't really care about us for their resources. You know, we're looking now at decline of the European project and the ascent of the African possibility. And the question is, are we going to stay on the down escalator or are we going to get on the up escalator? Because the up escalator has no limit. You know, we're just talking about Ghana and Uganda. I mean, the emerging middle class that's going to develop on the continent will dwarf, you know, anything that we're conceptualizing in the States now. and that's just maybe 5 years away. Um, what I saw in Ghana the last time I was there was a booming Ghanaian middle class that was in search of us. They were looking for what we bring to the table in terms of style, aesthetic, uniqueness, the ability to kind of differentiate themselves and stand out. What we were taking for granted here, 20, 30, 40 years ago in terms of what motivated our customers to find us and patronize us is emerging there right now. And it is totally untapped from a perspective that we can insert ourselves into. If I'm Ghanaian in Ghana selling something, I'm just a Ghanaian in Ghana selling something. But if I'm coming from Philadelphia, if I'm coming from Los Angeles, if I'm coming from New York, and I'm in Ghana selling something, that's a whole nother animal. That's a whole nother project. And I'm just looking at that going forward in the next few years, that, just as the rest of the world has identified China and China's evolving middle class. I mean, Andrew was telling me about some flights coming out of China where the entire, first class section is just some Chinese teenagers going to New York, on a shopping trip, so.
Children.
It's children.
Children, man, riding those $5,000, $6,000 one-way ticket that turns into bed,
So that's China. The same thing is going to happen on the continent. It's happening now. The children of the elite and their friends and their colleagues, they're already there now, and they're zooming around the planet, but as coming from where we're coming from, this geography makes us stateless people. So we have no particular affinity to any nation, but we have the history of what has been accomplished here behind us. And that has tremendous cachet in the African context. It is still respected. Still, 50, 60, 70% of Africans want to come to America. Still, they still want what America has projected itself to be. They don't know about the homelessness and the poverty or the stupidity of the systems. There's still that. And what I'm hoping is that we can capture the best of what this has created and attract people to it, for all the reasons that we're talking about. Yes, to sell products. Yes, to create alternative financial systems, but also to educate, also to create healthcare systems, also to, populate all the elements of culture that make life viable for our people, wherever we are. That's, kind of my projection, but, we're starting with where we're starting. Secondly, we're gonna need breakouts. So those of us who are trying to develop e-commerce and take that to the next level, we're gonna need to break out and talk to each other. Mark and Bob need to talk to each other. There are a couple other people.
We will.
Plug into that, just so that conversation can evolve also. There's an administrative cadre of folks who, like Malik, who was here before, and Edelin, and a couple other folks, whose experience is building organizations, for them to connect, to have those conversations so these things can be happening simultaneously. And at points, appropriate, we can, connect and reconnect. The other point is that we're at the point now where you need to start thinking of and inviting into the conversation, you know, those 5 or 10 people who you know who should be here. Not necessarily in a Zoom conversation, but possibly. So if you know somebody who's dealing with, you know, who's on the continent, who's doing something that we need to know about, you know, maybe that's a conversation. If they're trying to do e-commerce, that's a conversation. If they're trying to do currency, that's a conversation. But through the Facebook group, through a listserv, for email, through WhatsApp, you know, so one thing I've noticed is that because of the segmentation of the digital platforms, everybody has a different way that they communicate now. You know, some people still want a phone call, some people want an email, some people want a text, some people want a WhatsApp, some people, you know, it's like, and trying to navigate all that and finding out people's particularities in terms of how they receive information. Like I sent out an email, some people only check their email once a week. Some people only do this, only do that. Some people use Facebook only for Messenger. Some people never do, I mean, so we have that complication. So one of the things in terms of a media system is to kind of design some ways in which we reliably talk to each other, invite other people to the conversation, and begin to segment them in groups of specific interests as we move forward. So, you know, kind of that's kind of where we are. Like Ella, EJ, we need to
Hey, Marvin.
talk in terms of how we extend this e-commerce piece together. And there are other folks who've been in that conversation. In fact, everybody in our universe, but you know, that's one piece that we need to navigate.
Have you started the segment facilitation groups?
Not yet.
Okay.
But there's one thing I want to definitely add, Marvin, to what you're saying. I think going into this, I think we need to have a goal of our own network. They're especially considering when you're talking about TikTok and all the benefits of it and how, you know, how beneficial it could be to us right now. But it's their platform.
Exactly.
And just like Facebook changed the algorithm recently, they kind of wiped a lot of businesses out who were relying on that platform to get their message out. We don't want to set ourselves up for that again. So yeah, I'm not saying don't do it, but I'm saying at the same time, maybe we create our own network. I would like to throw a name out there. Ryan Leslie has an app that he's put out there. And I'm not saying use it. I'm just saying use his model. And in other words, taking all the contacts that are in your phone, Marvin, and all the contacts that are in my phone, and all the contacts that are in everybody's phone that's on this chat right here, and making a network of them. So that we could have, like, for instance, right now, if you have 5,000 followers on Facebook and you post a post, it's going to hit 13 people's account. Generally speaking, the same 13 people that responded to your last post. So your reach is very, very, very limited. It might be much greater if we combined our networks, just this 9 people that are on this chat. You have a greater impact with a post to the people that are in the contact list of the people that are right here on this chat than you would on a Facebook post, and even a boosted post that you will pay for.
Right.
So my point is that, you know, it's a model we can look at, and hopefully coming out of this, you know, maintain a network of our own.
Yeah. So this is, I guess, a comment to Mark. That obviously is the objective. We have a social media and a digital universe of multiple platforms that we're all occupying. The objective is to, from here to a destination, you know, in the future, how
Yeah.
do we create dedicated systems that we can control to allow us to communicate with each other, to communicate with our audience, and to communicate with the rest of the world. Those three
Right.
spheres that, at least that I know of.
Mhm.
Right.
We
No, I
communicate.
get it. I get it. And from what Aaron is saying, it's they're all viable, right? And everyone's answer at this particular stage, without a governance model,
Mhm.
right, is going to be different. Aaron's going to have a very online or network or marketing type of answer. I'm looking at the text. Tadre is going to have, a media distribution type of framework. There's going to be people who want to do things in production. There's going to be people who want to do things in retail. We're going to want to push a lot of information. So the idea first for me is to understand first the people, right? And that's why just listening to you guys and understanding your context helps. Then understanding the network itself, as Aaron is describing it, like, okay, in what ways would you describe your network? And again, to your point, Marvin, there are a bunch of words that we need to capture, but the idea is to understand each of our roles, the scope in which we participate and do activity for the different roles that we have, right? And once we can understand the role you play in your environment, someone is a producer, someone's a retailer, someone's a marketer, someone's a media person, then understand the layers underneath those roles, right? So in your media context, you deliver content down a ecotourism framework. Well, down someone else's context, they might be able to deliver services into any number of your contexts, right? So the idea is to first understand, the organization. That's what I'm hearing now. Is like I'm hearing, okay, there's going to be a facilitation group, right, to be able to understand, what it is, the scope of the organization is. Then maybe underneath the facilitation, you might have individual breakouts, like you talked about, around individual work products, or call it a work group. Those work groups will be doing, a structured set of steps to develop whatever the scope is that they're working on. So just to back it all back up is to say, first, let's, for me, I'll have to do what I'm doing now, which is just assessing where everyone is, right? What the goals are, where you're trying to go, and then what are the steps in between to kind of get you there, not just organizationally, but then like, oh, okay, well, organizationally is one thing, and then you guys will start to, understand like, okay, this is what each of the businesses at each of these layers want to do, what those goals are. So, just to say that, I hear some solutions, right, being presented, and there should be solutions, but again, like you're saying, Marvin, there should be a space for solution to be pushed, right? And I think that as long as you understand the role that someone plays and the activities that they do in their day-to-day operations, then you'll know what information you can push to them. If I know that Aaron is connected to Ryan Leslie and he's using the Ryan Leslie method to push information, then I'll know that, oh, you know what, I need to make, while I'm making a message that goes out on Facebook or blah, 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 whatever these other modes are, let me, in some central area, put this message where I know that Aaron is going to pick it up and
Right.
Aaron will push it through his method or his methodology, right? So we all have different methodologies that we currently work with, and it's going to take time to coalesce and bring everyone's methodology together, and that's the slow roll, right? Like we've tried that as people and organization builders. Like today's framework, the way that we are trying to build organizations, build networks, and build, when I say networks, I mean business networks,
Mm-hmm.
and then to build system networks in today's world is you got 6 people on the phone. They all have a set of skills, a set of scope and responsibility. As long as we know that we want to get out of today's call this goal, then everyone will say, what did you do yesterday to work towards that goal? What do you think you need to do today to achieve that goal? And then what do you think is blocking you from delivering that goal tomorrow? So within those 3 scopes, we should be able to come together and say, okay, well, you know what? Aaron's got a list. You know, Tadre's got a list. Marvin, you've got a list. Let's, for today's goal, let's push this through, and we have an immediate response, an immediate input, an immediate process, and an immediate output. And it's, you know, it's a set of small wins like that that will allow us to build something that has larger scope and larger wins, right? Like to say that we marketed this idea, we tested it, and you know it worked in the small context. Now, what do we think? You know, when can we run it in the larger scope, right? And what resources do we need to run it in a larger scope? So if we look at the bottom line is, for me, as I read through the documents that you have, Marvin, and then as I currently hear it, is there are a set of folks, they all have, you know, a space or a domain, let's use that word. They all have a domain that they work in. If we can define the domain and the scope of responsibilities that they have and the tasks that they do in those domains, then you can step back and say, okay, well, what process do you want to run across these domains to test an idea? Okay, so you know, if I use an example of, there's obviously the social media context, then there's the marketing context within social media. Then I've heard, you know, Aaron say, okay, there's the Google ads piece. Then there's media production.
Right.
You know, oh, let's push one idea. You know, whether it's, you know, you create a commercial.
Yeah.
The commercial is, you know, a story. It tells the story. It encompasses all the pieces that you currently have, whether, and I'm just using this as an example, right? You tell a story, a visual representation of what you want to happen, right? There's the goal, there's the asset, there's some commercial pieces, there's retail, there's this, it's this, you know, it's this marketplace, but it's a marketplace built on community, and you tell that story, and in that story, you can start to extract or pull out the abstract ideas that you told in the story, but then work specifically to deliver on functional pieces, right? And those functional pieces are the pieces that, like, I'm trying to, I guess, that'll be, you know, it'll be like, okay, here's the story, here's the products that are related to it, and here's the e-commerce platform that's related to it. But it's a cohesive story. And if you can find one cohesive line through all of the contexts that we have, I think that's the first step, in my opinion, right? Is just tell, because what I'm hearing in terms of documentation is the generic piece. It's a generic representation from the top down of what, you know, this nuance domain is, right? It's a large scope. It's got people, it's got businesses, it's got processes, everything's working. But if you can find one line straight through across that tells the story, then you can start to decompose the story and say, okay, well, how do we get this point across using this one statement, and then you iterate over it until it actually, you know, encompasses the whole network. But I think it's one tight story that can be like synthesized. Maybe it's synthesized into like 30 seconds. And not to say that it's a visual story, but it's like your value proposition, right? That we all kind of agree on. And you start at that top level with that value proposition, that statement that kind of tells it, and work our way down until we get to a system that, you know, is cohesive for all of us. Right? So that's kind of like what I've heard so far, because I think there are pieces that need, you know, fleshing out some more. But what I'm hearing is there are a lot of domains, and like you just said, Marvin, that there will be breakouts. But I feel like before the breakout, you know, giving folks like I don't know if it's like a charter, right? Let's use that word, a charter that they can take down into each of those domains is probably the first thing that I would say. And that would lend itself to the high level where governance is, right? It's like a set of people in an organization. What does that organization look like? What skills do they have? What tasks do they do every day? What's the business model that encompasses all the things that they're trying to do, and then what's the operational model, meaning what things do they have that support the way that they do business. And then after that, you can say, okay, know what the whole scope is, let's tell the story. Can that story be implemented in a system? Sure, it can, because we have all these people in these scopes. They can take that message, and then we can get responses back from the system based on one message, right? One cohesive message across all of these networks. And that would be like a good test.
So one time, because we're getting ready to get out of here.
I mean, that's been a challenge that has, I guess, prompted the things that I've written so far, is the attempt to address this central idea to a number of different constituencies, to kind of bring people to this idea. But it's just me, and so you know, it's complicated by the twists of my own narrative, and it's not clear. It isn't that 30-second universal story that everybody gets. It's, you know, it's the way I write. You know, when I talk to people, you know, it's easier to convey, but even then, you know, it's hard to tease out that thread that runs through everything, that people can hear it or read it and say, yeah,
well, that's our job now. That's our job now.
Right. Exactly.
I think it's there.
We got to mine that out. I mean, even though we have a gold mine, we got to mine the gold.
Yeah.
So we have to mine out that story. And a lot of times we don't realize how much we know. And so that when we open our mouth to talk, a lot comes out. And especially to somebody who doesn't know us, and they're like, you know, 5 seconds in, they might even be like, what is he talking about? You know, because
I'm gonna just say one thing for you, Aaron, for everyone across the board that I've listened to today, because my job is to do this on a regular basis, is to just sit on these calls, hear what people say, and for the notes that I've taken so far, there's an extensive amount of value here, right? And this is exactly what folks are looking for, is to say like, okay, if I'm interested in this, can I come to this general space and have an avenue to participate? And from what I've seen so far, is that diversity is here, right? Like our culture is represented very clearly in the map that I've created just while talking to you guys, right? So it's And that's what I'm thinking in my head, is that, yes, Marvin, this all that this has been missing, like you just said, Aaron, is I can very easily say there's gold here in this conversation and we need to mine it. My job is to take the word mine and say, what, Aaron, do you mean by mine? Marvin, what do you mean by mine? Everyone, what does each of you mean by mine? Okay, everyone would have a different answer, right? Everyone would have a different answer, but I could look across all of those answers and find the consistency across the answers and say, this is what we currently mean by mining the gold that's in this conversation. And that becomes like systemizable. I can now go on whatever media platform I want to and say, Nuance or New Africa Organization, we mine cultural gold and we deliver this value because this is what we all agreed mining our gold means. You understand? So if I can listen to when you talk, and Marvin, I think what my suggestion is for the next step is that we work towards a like for user experience research, the usually like there's a it's I guess, you know, we have surveys. Let's just as simple as surveys, right? Have you pushed a survey to the folk that have been on the call so far?
No.
Yeah. So like period. If we work our way backwards and say, just using my example of what Aaron just said, if I were to send out a survey to everyone, and at the top of that survey, or one of the questions, if my tagline is, how do you, as a member of this collective, mine your cultural, business, system, production, retail gold, then define it for me, right? And everyone, you would, you know, they would define, this is how I mine my gold every day. This is, I wake up, I do this, I get on social, or I write, or I study, or I meditate, I work, whatever it is that you, like, just as an example is that question, like everyone's answer could then be collated back together, and then you could see what direction. See, what you want is for the path forward to be data driven, right? As much as possible, because what you're talking about delivering as a product out into, whether the platform is owned by us or not, right? Whether the network is owned by us or not, is data. You're going to push data out and you're going to get data back, right? And whether or not that data is, I'm sending you a product for you to buy, or I'm sending you a piece of information for you to ingest and learn, right? Or I'm giving you something that I'm trying to build some capability, whether it's a production capability, whether it's a learning capability, something I'm trying to translate to you, I'm going to get some feedback back, right? And I think the first layer of feedback is, you know, a survey that has a set of questions that land itself in a set of domains, right? A cultural domain, an economic domain, a social domain, right? So define the domains for yourself, Marvin, and then ask pertinent questions that will bring back either like yes or no answers that are, but then something also that could be like textual, that, you know, could write a paragraph, whatever. We could put up a form online and decide it, and people just go to the link and fill out the survey, and the data back from that survey starts to let you understand, you know, directionality for, you know, like what should the next workout groups or the facilitation groups look like, right? So that's I'll stop there, but usually I'm just like, what's a tangible next step to take away from this meeting, from what I heard? And what I heard is there's a bunch of domains out in the scope. those domains can come down. And I think it's probably already in the document that you've written, but I think to survey it because this is a new day from when that document was written, right? Or when those documents were written. Different impacts, different social, economic impact to us now. Like Africa is #1 on a lot of our minds. So, this is the time to capture people's input down whatever path you want to push the surveys, right? You could throw that survey up just internally, or then you could start pushing surveys out to people just to let the data drive the direction that you want to. Yeah, so I'll stop there.
Well, I like the survey idea. I mean, it's a matter of, I guess, then of crafting questions that sift out and filter out, usable data in terms of people's response. But I would also, suggest that, we broaden our network to that group of people who, could have and should have been on this call. I mean, like I said, there are like 6 or 7 people who are in this group who I didn't invite to the call because, this is a process in motion, and everybody coming in new would need to go back to the beginning to start. So I was just trying to move us forward. But I think each of us knows somebody or a couple of other folks. I mean, Jimmy King messaged me yesterday about a couple of folks who wanted to connect. So I would like, to at least expand that, because there's some expertise, that's not represented here just by the nature of the time and space of this gathering that, I think would be important. And likewise, you might know of 1, 2, I don't know, other folks who should be a part of this deliberation and this conversation, at least in terms of receiving the survey and getting their response back.
Mm-hmm.
Is this going to be recorded somewhere that we could download and review? Because this is a lot to digest, and I'm loving it all. And I really want to be able to go back and kind of.
I've been writing notes like
It's
furiously.
recorded.
I mean, I've recorded both of these conversations. At present, I'm holding them on my server. I didn't want to put them up in the cloud until, that was the decision to do. But yes, all of this is being recorded.
That's the key. That's one of the keys to what to the direction that I'm going in terms of like having a governance model first, right? Because some of the folks or some of the things that might be said, you might have differing privacy requirements, and if and sometimes I get chastised for maybe being a little too strategic or high up, right? Before getting down on the ground to actually implement something. But if you, like, just for your example, if you were to implement putting this on a server before doing a privacy policy for the group, right? Like, these are pieces that, like, there needs to be a data policy, a privacy policy, just things that, not everyone might be interested in, but things that should govern conversations and interactions moving forward.
Exactly. So that's why, I recorded it, but I'm holding it.
Yeah.
Before we would put it out, we need to have that kind of conversation and just be clear that that's, agreeable to everybody rather than.
Right.
It might be one of those situations where it's do you agree with our privacy policy, and you check the box. The problem is nobody reads them, but it's a controlling document as to how you're supposed to act. So
correct, and that's something that you can control just by a survey form, right? That's why I mentioned a survey as a good starting point, you know, to say like, look.
Yeah, Andrew, I had
Yeah.
muted you because we're having conversations in the back, but
I know. My apologies, but I'm in the mall and
yeah,
I need to check out of here. You know, there's a curfew situation here
I got you.
in Nassau. So, yeah, but I'll be ready for the next one.
Okay, man.
Thank you.
All right, bro. Gentlemen.
Take care.
Take care.
Ladies, it's been a pleasure.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
Okay, so, you know, think of expanding the network, you know, one easy thing, even though it's not universal, is invite them to the Facebook, the Nuance Connected. You can invite them there.
That's what I was going to suggest. The Nuance
Facebook group.
Nuance Facebook page.
Uh-huh.
I think the risk that we're running is that if the interest of all of these people are too diverse,
Right.
you know,
Exactly.
I think we're gonna lose a lot. That's why I liked Mark's comment about segmenting it, because, for instance, my interest is more in production
Right.
enterprises, and so when you get that all combined with currencies and this and that, etc.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
Agreed.
all right.
Okay.
Got it
Yep,
on, brother.
agreed.
Yeah.
Okay, man.
Talk to you
All
soon.
right. Peace. Peace.
Bye bye. What's that?
Yeah, and just for me, I knew just from the delineations, right? The production delineation, the artist delineation, you know, the retail delineation, you know, it's going to feed to a point where, yeah, you need, you know, these breakout rooms, and, you know, Zoom allows that as well. So, you know, you just want to know what the scope is and who's out there and how many people we have in each of those domains, and then allow those domains to kind of like figure out what their policies and kind of what their operating, you know, modes are, you know, down those paths.
Okay. A lot to digest. You know, thank you everybody for your time, your, you know, inputs. You know, I'll try to, you know, give some consideration to this survey piece. And, you know, we'll continue what conversations we need to. Like I say, I will be, I'll give you a call. So because that piece, the e-commerce platform, I mean, that's a very immediate thing for a lot of us.
Mhm.
So we need to, you know, pursue the conversations we've had and do whatever tests we're going to do on that, as we discussed previously. So, you know, that's hopefully a road something, a pathway, you know, to moving forward. And
Okay.
let's say, on the currency thing, you know, the couple of other folks who I've spoken to have that interest. Mark, I think, you know, you're probably more steeped in it than most. But, you know, that's not my personal interest. I just know it's a necessity. I don't know when that connects exactly, but, you know, that's clearly a piece of the puzzle.
Correct.
But
And
again,
don't forget, there's a role for Ghana to play in that as a producer of wealth
Correct.
that has been ignored in everything I've seen about the continent.
okay,
We
so
kind of cede that to London. And
yeah, so somebody, who was it? This sister in Ghana had the analogy of a jigsaw puzzle and trying to put these pieces together to form a cohesive picture. So, you know, we're still at the stage of identifying the pieces and beginning to conceptualize what the big picture might look like. But, Mark, I think, your insight and your participation has been really helpful and will be going forward. So,
Yeah, I mean, I appreciate the time and I appreciate listening to everyone. And hopefully you guys got, some value out of it. I just, my brain is like going in terms of these connected pieces, and I'm just looking forward to learning more. So thank you all. Appreciate it.
okay.
Okay, Mark, it's a pleasure. Everybody
Yes, it's a pleasure.
enjoyed it.
Thank you all.
Mhm.
All right.
Aaron, can I get your phone number?
It's 202
Mm-hmm.
330
Mm-hmm.
7729.
Okay.
And please, everybody, post your contact information or your websites or anything on the Facebook piece so that, anything that
Okay.
you're doing, anything you have coming up, anything you want to, share that other folks can connect to or support, it's an ideal place for that to happen as well.
Right.
So also your suggestion is anybody that you think that might be interested, just direct them to the Facebook page?
Just invite them to join. Because that's a generic environment at this point.
Right, but as far as this grouping, because I have a friend who manufactures handbags in Kenya. I have someone else that does T-shirts in London. So I think that they should be part of the conversation in some way.
So when we have, there's going to be a conversation that deals with production, marketing, retailing.
Mm-hmm.
There's some stores that are in trouble now because that are part of our supply chain. There's production issues, but everybody who's producing something, wherever they are, needs to be connected to us. So we know what they're doing, what their challenges are. Are they the same? Are they different based on their geography? So we can begin to digest some of that information, because whatever solution we craft needs to encompass all of those kinds of inputs. So yes, definitely, if there are other folks who are creating and producing, they definitely need to be in. But again, we can create a conversation amongst ourselves to talk about those issues.
Right. I mean, I like the fact that it's a small group right now, because can you imagine as the group that gets bigger, 10, 20, 50, we'll be talking all day.
Right. So you need, we as we invite them into just an identification session, that would need to be pre-scripted and curated so that basically that's only to identify each other and have the familiarization and socialization. But we're going to need to drive and design processes that, service, this larger constituency.
Can I ask a question here? I do this on my phone, my cell phone, and as I look at it, I get 4 faces per screen. So I've got to kind of flip through and that type of thing. Is that what everybody else gets?
Mark mentioned this to me. So I don't have my phone, but you can try this. He said if you swipe left, you enter an environment that could allow you to see more people. Once you swipe left, if you continue swiping left after that, I meant to ask him about that while he was on the call. But he said when you swipe right, it takes you to something about driving. When you swipe left, it takes you, so that it's something about swiping. But you can Google that on, how do I see more people on my Zoom call on my phone? And I'm sure there's 1,000 answers to that, But there's something to that allows
Yeah, I was just thinking if you get 25 people on the call and you only get 4 per screen, you're going to be spend the whole conversation swiping back and forth.
Yeah, so that's a challenge of using your phone. But
yeah.
Well, on my phone, there's 3 dots at the bottom of my screen. I don't know if you have the same 3 dots.
Same thing. Yeah.
All right, so the center dot, if I leave it there on the center dot, then whoever is talking shows up.
Kind of. Yeah, I'm looking at it now, and it kind of switches on its own sometimes.
Yeah, it switches to whoever's talking, whoever's microphone.
No, not necessarily, but that's the basic concept of what's going on.
Right.
But I guess my concern is just trying to keep track of all 25 people in a conversation. In other words, Don't worry about it. I was just wondering if by using the computer, it would be a better
Oh, yeah, definitely.
visual
Easier.
experience.
Yeah.
So you get all 20. You would get all 25 on their screen.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's
Yes.
a, portrait view, or
Okay.
whatever, there's an icon up in the top. If you click that, the number of squares, then everybody shows up.
Oh, okay. I'll have to try that next time.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Thank you all.
Thank you
Well, I
very
want
much.
I just want to say one more thing. This is so magnetically attractive to me and to all of us because a lot of times we don't have peers in our immediate circle. We have peers when we get together at festivals as vendors and merchants and producers and manufacturers. But I'm just talking about this is needed because discussing things with people who are having the same problems and issues as you is invaluable.
It
Agreed.
truly is.
Mm.
Aaron, I'm going to give you a call in a minute.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Okay, team.
All right,
All
all.
right.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Marvin.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right, bye-bye.